Oh, hello. Welcome to Dad Reads with me, David. I was just reading a story, today's story, in fact. It's about a lady called Beatrix Potter. She did a number of stories about animals, and you might have watched one or two movies based on her book. Today's story is called Beatrix and Her Bunnies, the story of Beatrix Potter, and it's actually told by Rebecca Colby and Caroline Bonnie Muller. Shall we read it and find out how Beatrix got started? Let's read it, shall we? Beatrix and Her Bunnies. Once there was a little girl named Beatrix. She lived in a house in London that was large and sometimes lonely. Even though she had lots of animals that she cared for very much, like snails and salamanders, birds and bats, frogs and hedgehogs. None of them was the perfect playmate. If only frogs could play leapfrog, she thought, or hedgehogs could play hopscotch. More than anything, she longed for a special friend. Beatrix searched everywhere for a playmate. When she visited the countryside with her family, she would hunt through the bushes for wild rabbits, whose black eyes flashed with fun. But whenever Beatrix tried to start a game, they bounded away across the fields, leaving her feeling as lonely as ever. Then, one day, Beatrix met Benjamin. Benjamin was different. He wiggled his whiskers in a way that only could mean, "Hello, how are you?" And when she brought him home, he hopped around after her as though he already knew how to play follow the leader. As they curled up by the fire that evening, Beatrix had a wonderful feeling that she and Benjamin would be friends forever. In the mornings, Benjamin twitched his nose as if to say, "Time for a walk." Then, in the afternoons, when he heard the tea bell, he would race Beatrix upstairs for their buttered toast. All day long, Beatrix drew pictures of Benjamin. Her father said her drawing was getting better, and Beatrix knew it was true. She sketched and sketched until she drew every single hair on Benjamin's tail just right. But bunnies don't live forever. As the years went by, Beatrix noticed that Benjamin's hoppity hops weren't as high as they used to be, and his naps by the fire were getting longer and longer until one day Benjamin died. The large house in London became lonely once again. Drawing and painting helped Beatrix feel a little better, but the city was so grey and gloomy. When she visited the countryside, it was easier to fill the pages of her sketchbook with flowers, mushrooms, and colourful creatures, but memories of Benjamin still hopped through her head. Then, a short while later, Benjamin met Peter. He wiggled his whiskers in a "hello" that reminded her of Benjamin. Peter didn't listen for the tea bell to ring. He rang bells himself and played a tambourine. And when visitors came with their children to see Beatrix's family, Peter would jump through hoops. Children adored him, and they gave Beatrix an idea. She picked up her pen and thought about the countryside she loved, the fir tree forests, the blackberry bushes, the cottage gardens, and about her bunnies. As she scribbled and drew pictures too, by the time Beatrix finished, her work was 8 pages long. It was the story of a rabbit named Peter, who had a cousin called Benjamin. She thought that if she showed the story to publishers, they could make it into a book and print lots of copies so that children could enjoy reading it too. That way, her bunnies could live forever. But not everyone loved this story about Peter the way Beatrix did. The publishers said things like, "We don't want stories about rabbits. Sorry, we don't think people will buy this." They all said no. Not one publisher wanted to make her story into a book, but Beatrix refused to give up. She asked again and again, until at last one publisher said yes. He laughed out loud at Peter's adventures and decided this story would make a wonderful book. Before long, people were buying beautiful little copies of The Tale of Peter Rabbit from shops. Then more and more copies sold all around the world. Soon, Beatrix knew that lots of people did love her bunnies. In fact, so many people bought her books that Beatrix had enough money to leave the house in London that was large and sometimes lonely, and moved to a cottage in the countryside that was cosy and always cheery and filled with lots of animal friends. Through her stories, Beatrix shared these friends with the world too. And as she grew older, there was something else Beatrix wanted to share: the countryside she loved so much. She worked hard to make sure that the green valleys around her weren't filled with houses and that sheep had plenty of grass to graze on. Beatrix gave away all her land to friends who promised to look after it, so that the countryside would be enjoyed by everyone. Like her bunnies, she will be remembered forever. And that's the end of the story. Isn't that nice? She had a passion for her animals, and she got to make what she loved into a story so that they can be lived on forever. And I do remember reading some of Peter Rabbit's stories, and obviously now it's a book. There's other animals that she did as well. Jemima Puddle Duck was another one. But you tell me, have you read any of Beatrix Potter's stories? It's good to read for yourself as well as watching my videos. But let me know in the comments. And remember, if you haven't liked this video, please like it. And remember to subscribe too. And you can even share this video with others if you like it that much. Okay, so that's the end of the story. I hope you liked it. Until next time, bye for now.